What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I am going to be speaking about having your moon conjuncting your partner's Juno in synastry and what happens when that happens. So when we're talking about having the moon conjuncting Juno in synastry, this aspect is one that's going to also involve actually a lot of things like the long-term compatibility between two people and the emotional connection, and things like nurturing and safety and feeling safe in a connection is also something that this aspect brings to a relationship between two people, and all of that stuff that's associated with the moon. And in fact, when talking about the moon represents our emotions. This is our intuition and how we feel at home. And when it comes to the moon, where it's placed and what sign it's in, looking at the moon can tell you how you want to be nurtured and how you nurture. Because with the moon, this is your emotional core. This is the comfort zone where somebody feels comfortable. And when it comes to connecting with another person, the moon can tell you how you want to connect with somebody on a deeper level, void of any kind of verbal usage. So on a non-verbal level, the way in which you feel comfortable being able to connect with another person, your moon sign can show you that and it will reveal that. Whereas on the other hand, when it comes to Juno, when it comes to the asteroid called Juno, this is all about commitments long term. And the reason why this aspect can also bring in that sense of being able to bring in insights into the long-term compatibility between two people is because of Juno's effect. And Juno has to do with long-term commitments and long-term relationships. And essentially with Juno, when it comes to those long-term relationships and long-term commitments, it's not just about romance, but being able to have a fulfilling, sustainable, long-term relationship or partnership that's going to be fulfilling over time. And pretty much when it comes to Juno, it is what we need to feel supported, as well as we need to feel valued in a committed relationship. And when it comes to the energy of Juno, it is almost like a ride or die kind of an energy being brought into the relationship. And it can be more serious in the way that commitment is being handled or being seen. And with that in mind, it contributes towards building something meaningful and real between two people in a partnership. And so what happens when moon is conjuncting somebody's Juno in synastry? With this placement, the moon person here feels the sense of being seen and being valued, especially on an emotional level, by the Juno person. It's like the Juno person is seeing their emotional needs and values those emotional needs for the moon person. And the Juno person here feels that they see the moon person as being the ideal partner that they envision, because to them, the moon person embodies a lot of traits that they envision as being what contributes to the ideal partner. And with this aspect between the moon person and the Juno person, the feeling of connection can even feel quite instant between the two of them. You can feel like having somebody who understands them on a deep level. And because when it comes to that sense of connection, it does go beyond the surface, and it is also a sense of being able to develop a deeper emotional connection between two people. They both can feel comfortable being vulnerable and even authentic with each other with this aspect. Because what this aspect does is that it also brings about, it's like it's creating the sense of a safe space, especially an emotionally safe space between each other. And so it may feel comfortable being able to be vulnerable, even authentic with each other for the Juno person as well as for the moon person with this aspect. Because with this aspect, it feels very comfortable between the two of them. And the moon person here is going to feel supported as well as even nurtured by the Juno person when it comes to their dynamic with this aspect. Because when it comes to the way the Juno person feels with this aspect, they feel the sense of being inspired to want to be able to commit, as well as to be able to build a lasting kind of partnership with the moon person. And between the moon person as well as the Juno person, you can actually feel like they can see a potential for being able to build a future with each other. But while this connection can actually be one that feels very nurturing, feels very supportive, they both are also going to need to be able to really trust this connection, because it can also bring up insecurities, especially with those big ideas of what things can be. And even just things like being willing to be able to trust the connection, because it can bring up also insecurities around things like being afraid of messing up this connection. And because they can tend to be quite vulnerable with each other, they can also experience things like fear of being vulnerable with each other. And this also can actually pose as a challenge in the connection when it comes to being open to being vulnerable with each other. But if they are both willing, they can also have a very, very rewarding connection with each other, and one that feels very good and comfortable to be in with somebody. Because when it comes to what the moon conjuncting your partner's Juno can bring to a relationship, it's actually going to bring in a sense of the connection feeling more solid. And between the moon person and the Juno person, their connection can actually have a lot of emotional depth here, especially because that's what the moon person provides to their connection, and also a sense of nurturing. And when it comes to the Juno person and what they provide to their connection with this aspect, they're bringing more so things like structure as well as commitment into the relationship. And that combination really allows for the relationship to be able to thrive. In essence, what they're bringing to the relationship is bringing about a sense of security meets love in their relationship, and that those energies go hand in hand and allow for their connection to be able to thrive. And when it comes to the impact of this aspect in a relationship between two people, can do just that when it comes to making a relationship thrive. And here, while the moon person feels things like being truly seen and also feeling things like being cared for by the Juno person in this relationship with this aspect between the two of them, while on the other hand, the Juno person feels the sense of finally having the chance to be able to build a relationship that they've always dreamt of with the moon person. And essentially, the emotions of the moon person resonate quite deeply and strongly with the Juno person's urge for commitment, as well as even when it comes to Juno being all about being able to have partnerships that are ideal partnerships. So there is a sense of building something that is meaningful that they get the chance to do with the moon person, because they're on the same page and they're resonating, especially with the moon person on an emotional level when it comes to that sense of being aligned with the moon person. And this especially can also help in creating a harmonious and even nurturing connection between each other. And they're just likely going to have a lot of emotional understanding and even mutual support with this aspect in their relationship. Because also Juno is about being able to create a framework for partnerships, for commitment, and with the Juno person and the moon person being in alignment, or being able to resonate with the moon person's emotions, the Juno person does so in a way that actually supports the emotional needs of the moon person, and this creates that sense of long-term emotional compatibility within their relationship. But when it comes to the more challenging sides of having this aspect, it can be in that the moon person can come to actually depend on the Juno person for emotional support at times. And that can actually put pressure on the Juno person for being able to meet the moon person's needs, emotional needs, perfectly. Which especially is why when it comes to the give and take between the two of them, it's very important to have a balance and ensure that when it comes to giving, they are also receiving in a balanced way. That is them giving as much as they are receiving in this relationship with this aspect. And even things like being able to communicate about their needs openly with each other can also go a long way with this aspect. And the challenge when it comes to this is that it's also possible for the moon person to unconsciously kind of project their emotional needs onto the Juno person and want the Juno person to be able to meet those needs in an ideal way, which, because it can actually put pressure on the Juno person, it can lead to also an imbalance in their connection. Because of this, it can happen that the moon person can face things like being disappointed, especially around things like the Juno person not being able to live up to their projected or imagined idea of them. And with this aspect, that's where the challenge can lie, is that there can also be unspoken expectations, and unspoken expectations placed upon the Juno person especially, which can pressure them. Because for the Juno person, it can actually make things feel confusing, and it can even feel uncertain at times when it comes to the relationship, especially if the emotional dynamics between the two of them isn't very clear. So overall, with this aspect between the moon person and Juno person, it feels like a sense of coming home. And between the moon person and the Juno person, the feelings they can get from each other is being able to meet someone who is going to be there for them, even in times where they're feeling low, as well as also wanting to be able to build a future with them. And when it comes to that desire to build a life together, it's coming from a genuine place. They are also going to experience this feeling of somebody being able to get them emotionally and not being afraid to be there for them, even in times when they're feeling low. And overall, when it comes to having an aspect like the moon conjuncting your partner's Juno, this is an aspect that can make a relationship feel magical. And since it's all about emotional safety and even deep connection, it's going to contribute towards a long-term compatibility between two people in a way that feels very fulfilling, in a way that feels good, especially if two people in a partnership are willing and open to this energy, which this also makes it very comfortable to be able to get into that energy with each other. Well, that does it for this video on having your moon conjuncting your partner's Juno in SYNASTRY. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful. And if you did, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Well, that is where I love and leave you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.